So today we are back with a Destiny 2 build video. It's been a while on one of these. Things have been interesting to say the least, and before rushing into this type of video, I wanted to truly understand the new sandbox we are playing in with a lot of changes in the Edge of Fate. To be fair, things have not been smoothly on understanding the sandbox, and stats are, somewhat bugged. They're not functioning 100% correctly, so we're still, dealing with that, but things are being fixed, so we'll do our best on stats. Today and for a little bit, I will have plenty of Titan builds in the future, but sooner rather than later, hopefully sooner, expect Warlock and Hunter builds on the channel when I get around to it. The seasonal grind is certainly something, and I am a very busy person as well, so when I can, I promise to get around to those videos because those classes do have some fun stuff as well. Now, before we jump into this one, just want to say if you enjoyed the content and want more from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to be notified on when I do drop more videos. With that out the way, let's jump in and talk about our exotic options with this build. So since this will be a Consecration Knockout Prismatic build, melee is going to be the top focus. Now, I must stop here and say this. Before you cry about it being a Consecration Knockout build, I really don't know what else to tell you here. This will continue to be one of the most powerful plays in Destiny. Thus, I will continue to update this combination. Also, it's not my fault that Bungie decided to change the way melee damage stacking works and buff this combination, even though they quote-unquote nerfed it. So I know you may be saying, oh, another Consecration Knockout build or just another Consecration build. This is an incredibly powerful build. It makes speed running some of the seasonal grind even easier. And also, like, when you fight somebody, do you want to fight somebody with your hands tied behind your back? I don't think so. So besides that, let's jump back into it. So melee exotics here are going to be the main choice for us, and there is really only two that stand out the most. That being the obvious Worm God Caress and Synthoceps. Both of these are powerful in each of their own way, so let's dive into why you may want one over the other. My personal top pick here is going to be Worm God Caress. It always has, and I feel like as of now, always will be. This gives us the highest potential buff to our melee damage, and it also comes with a weapon damage buff, which is very nice. The details around its exotic perk, Burning Fist, read like this. So, finisher and melee kills, this includes a glaive melee kill, grant a stack of Burning Fist, maximum of 5 stacks. After not scoring further finisher or melee kills for 2 seconds, your stacks start to decay one at a time over a period of seconds, and here on screen will be those time for decay per stack. Now with damage buffs, we also have stuff dealing with stacks. So with our melee buffs at 1 stack, we have a 55% buff. At 2 stacks, we have a 110% buff. At 3 stacks, we have a 165% buff. At 4 stacks, we have 220% buff. And at 5 stacks, we see a 400% buff. It's important to note, this used to be 275%, but with the Edge of Fate, this was bumped up to 400%. I have no idea why, but I'm also not complaining. And then when it comes to our weapon damage buffs, 0%, 20%, 25%, 30%, and 35% per stack respectively. And while not important here, melee damage bonuses is no longer decreased when using Roaring Flames and Glaive melees. We're not going to be recommending a Glaive here. We're not recommending Roaring Flames because you can't use it here. So just keep that in mind that some of the negative effects that we had there are no longer there. Worm God Caress is by far my favorite exotic Titan arm in the game. No questions. But on the flip side, it's not as easy to proc compared to the other exotic I mentioned, Synthoceps. This has less moving parts, meaning you can blindly not worry about much and see some incredible benefits. So its exotic perk, Bionic Enhancements, reads like this. Being within 15 meters of 3+ enemies, grant the Bionic Enhancement buff for 5 seconds. Some benefits you see from this buff is a plus 35 to handling and plus 35 to reload speed, a 50% increase to super damage, a 165% increase to melee damage. This is comparable to Worm God Caress damage buff when you reach 3 stacks, and then a 100% increase to glaive melee damage. Again, this falls in between that 2 and 3 stack mark of a damage buff. This is a much easier exotic to use, and with the plus of buffing our super by 50%, a fine alternative, and for some of you, the top option. But I think we did enough groundskeeping with the exotics. Let's jump into game and go over the build. So here we are in game, and as per tradition when it comes to these things, let me show off the drip a little bit. I really do like this one, but as per usual, I like all of my drip options. So I'll let you guys flame me, praise me in the comment section down below. Now, before we jump into the subclass and talk about the loadouts and the armor mods, just want to talk about stats for a moment. The two main stats I recommend you focus in on is top priority, of course, will be melee, and then secondary to that will be weapons. Now, the main thing with the melee stat here is when you get enhanced benefits, you can increase your damage. So however much you want to increase that damage by, be my guest. There's also those font mods that add plus 20, plus 40, and then you can get up to potentially with 3 of them a plus 50, so you can reach 200 if you have armor charges. Melee is the main one I recommend you focus in on, and then secondary will be weapons. Now, for the subclass itself, again, this is prismatic. Aspects will be consecration and knockout. Great for survivability when it comes to knockout, and then consecration, well, it makes frenzy blade, transcendent. You have 3 of these. It's ridiculously powerful. Super of choice will be Hammer of Soul for the restoration benefits. We'll talk about that more soon. High lift jump, because we're high lift supremacy over here with our jump, and then a shatter grenade or a glacier grenade specifically for some of that darkness synergy, and frankly, this is a really good grenade. Now, when it comes to our fragments, we got 4 here. This used to be 5, but I believe they took away 1 from knockout or consecration, either or, I forget which one it was. So first up with the fragment, we have Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy, and rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. For light energy, basically killing 3 enemies will grant you 10% melee energy, and same goes for dark damage, except it will be 10% grenade energy. Now, next to that is Facet of Purpose. Picking up an Orb of Power grants either Bolt Charge, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or Overshield based on the damage type of your equipped super. I love this because, well, I love generating tons of orbs, as you'll be seeing with the armor mods, and then having restoration times 1 all the time. It's a really easy way to enhance your survivability. You're pairing this with knockout, you're pretty much hard to kill as a titan. Now, with the other fragment next to that, we have Facet of Courage. Your arc, solar, and void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs. More details on that would be that your light grenade and super abilities deal 10% increased damage, and light powered melee abilities deal 50% increased damage. So your consecration gets boost right there, plus gets boost by knockout to an extent, and then gets boost by Worm God. Yeah, we're going full on abusive with no regulations on melee damage stacking. And then next to that, we have Facet of Ruin. This is a subtle way, increases the size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal, which is nice for our glacial grenade or frozen target, of course, and increases the area effect of our solar ignitions. Again, not much here, but it does help a little bit, and it has a plus 10 weapon stat. Also, I forgot to mention, Facet of Courage has a plus 10 grenade, and Facet of Purpose has a negative 10 class. But that's subclass. Let's talk about the loadout real quick. Mint retrograde, we've made a god video on this recently. There's a couple of different combos you can have. The one I have here is rewind, bait and switch. If you do want to check out the video with more details, we do have it on the channel. Annotation should have it somewhere there. This is a great weapon to help build darkness transcendence, and of course, well, it's just a great weapon as a whole. A Hobchar is another weapon we are using. We talk highly of. This is an auto rifle. I slightly like this more than Yeartide Apex to an extent, but you can watch videos on our channel if you're curious on which one is which. A Hobchar just edges out on as my favorite option. Ideally, a solar primary here would be ideal with, you know, some of the solar siphon mods we have. Also, you could use that solar spread shot hand cannon from Arms Week with 1-2 punch. That'll give you a 75% increased melee damage buff there. So if you want to get even crazier, 1-2 punch in one capacity, or in other words, a primary, secondary is a solid option. And then exotics, we're just using Thunderlord. It's just something I've been using, nothing too crazy here. Been keeping my power weapon Thunderlord because it's simple, easy, and powerful. Now for our armor mods, for our helmets, we have hands-on, gain bonus super energy on melee kills. We're going to be doing a ton of melee kills. We have a solar strain dual siphon. You get this from the artifact. More on the artifact pretty soon. And then we have an harmonic siphon just to kind of enhance our solar weapon final blows generation of orbs of power. The more orbs, the more cracked out you can be with this build, and just frankly in general. For our exotic, we have a heavy handed mod, we have melee font, and we have fastball. It's important to note with melee font that this will be a plus 20 to your melee stat. If you pair 2 of these, you'll get up to plus 40, and if you pair a third one, it will cap out at plus 50. So just keep that in mind if you want to make some alterations here on how many melee fonts you want there. You could even potentially, depending on your stats, reach the max of 200 and get some wild benefits. For our chest piece, we have, well, there's not much here. Since we're using a solar primary, solar ammo generation is nice here. This is basically a plus 20 to our ammo generation stat. We're also using sniper damage resistance and concussive dampener to help out with some survivability. For our legs, we just pretty much went all out on invigoration ×3. If you pair one of these, you'll see a 10% increase to your melee ability energy, 13% with 2 of these, and the cap, which we have here, is a 15% melee ability energy increase when we pick up those orbs of power. Again, a great way of just getting our melees back as soon as possible. And finally, when it comes to our mark, we have time dilation to extend the decay of our armor charges, and we have powerful attraction, class ability, collect the orbs, get those armor charges up, get the bonuses and things like that. And then we have outreach, reduces melee cooldown when using your class ability. Nothing too crazy here. I will say when it comes to our armor set bonus, we are using the Solstice one. Bushido is also a fairly good one. And if you want to use a kinetic primary, the Tech Sec, I believe it's called, is another good one. I'm not going to go crazy for this build on armor set bonuses. If we do want to get focused in on one, I will get. But as of right now, armor set bonuses for a build like this don't matter too much in my opinion. And then when it comes to our artifact, this is where things get a little bit interesting. Now the main ones you really want is going to be Radiant Shrapnel, dealing sustained weapon damage while radiant, or increasing or defeating scorched combatant with a weapon causes the target to release solar projectiles that deal damage and scorch on impact. This is an incredible one, especially when you pair it with Fever and Chill. Precision rapid hits with solar weapons grant radiant, and then for stasis weapons you get frost armor. Nothing too awesome there with stasis, but with solar weapons, as you saw we're using there, really good stuff. If you do want to have some discounts on scavenger mods, Divineer's discount is a really good one for that Siphon combo mod. Flame, Fiber, and Freeze is very nice. Depending on your champions you might be dealing with, of course, depends on this. Overload Auto Rifle is also on the board, and then if you use that spread shot hand cannon, you got unstoppable options. Cauterized Darkness is another good one. Stasis and Strand debuff non-boss combatants take increased solar damage from all sources. Good way to upping your primary there. And then finally, Elemental Coalescence is another good one. Defeating targets has the chance to create an elemental pickup matching your equipped super element. So pretty much that's everything you need to know on the build, the armor mods, the loadout, the subclass itself, and even the artifact. Yeah, really love this one. But now I think it's time to jump out and wrap up this video. So like I said before, that's going to be the build, and this is one of many solid builds to use for Titans at the moment. Others we will post in the coming days and weeks. Just got to get the information together in a script, and then obviously get some B-roll and stuff like that. But yeah, some exciting stuff on the channel for builds is definitely coming. For almost any content, this build will rock, and I consider it kind of to be a must-use or a good starting point if you're having a hard time kind of doing and completing some harder challenge content in the portal. As always with these builds, a dim link is posted in the description and in the pinned comment for you all to pull from. Give it a spin and let me know what you think. But besides that, I have nothing further to add except that if you enjoyed, be sure to drop this video a like, helps out the video a ton. And for more content from myself, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to be notified on when my next video drops. Until then, thank you for watching as always. ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.